Yo, guys, I decided to share some really crazy stuff about timelines, and I just made one video about it, and this is the second one where I'm gonna open up and I'm gonna tell you the craziest stuff that I haven't been sharing simply because uh, it I failed to actually find conversations where this would land. Like, this stuff is through the roof of our everyday understanding of reality, and it's straight up glitches in the matrix and timeline shifts that I've experienced in my singular first person reality immersion, but most of the people were not experiencing reality in this way. And so when I tried to talk about it, I didn't find anyone who would actually be able to understand me, and so I just kept it to myself. And maybe now the momentum has changed and somebody's going to actually get it. Okay, so here we go. uh, First of all, 7 years ago I meditated for 2 years straight up, and my focus was 0 point, where you come to into nirvana. So you relocate your awareness from external world into the center point of yourself, and then wait for everything to disappear, and then your body disappears and this dimension disappears and you're pure consciousness. So with that, like, I would also see from my mind screen when I was like half in half out, like I could switch from pure conscious into this avatar puppet, and then I could choose to think or not to think. I could choose to start walking or talking or not. I could remain in perfect relaxation, not interacting with my avatar or with the reality, and nothing was able to, no thoughts were able to ping me unless I choose. And you kind of have to make an effort to start thinking. But then I notice, what will I be thinking about? What appears on my time screen before I collapse my thoughts? There is like an array of different, literally like timelines or different routes, and each single one is like a reality movie. And so wherever I anchor my mind and bring that one and start thinking about that one, from this 0 point default state of consciousness, that timeline starts to happen. So manifestation of that timeline or any event or experience would also be immediate, like immediate synchronistic. So let's say I'm just then meditating and I'm thinking, well, there's nothing to do apparently, so what could I do? And then I say something like everyday stuff. I would enjoy talking to someone and maybe like having a cup of coffee. And then my and at that time I didn't use my phone or have any friends or whatever, because I was just doing this meditation all the time. But then immediately the event would occur immediately, that somebody rings on my like intercom, and I would answer, and somebody would be like, "Hey, what's up? It's me. Do you want a cup of coffee? We were like passing down the street and now we're going to get some coffee. Do you want me to bring up a cup and we can have a conversation?" Exactly like I selected. So I'd be like, cool. But then I'd be like, okay, so let's do some other thing that's not so casual when you're thinking about what's possible. So I'd be like, so it's possible that some, I don't know, some money appears, and that money would appear. So I was like, okay, that's weird because you don't have to do anything. You just have to select a movie where that thing happens. And then I was like, wait, is everything possible? Everything that I can think of? I started to anchor timelines that were out of the ordinary. So let's say, let's have some. This is so corny, but let's have some beautiful girls come over and I don't know, like get naked. And for sure, like some girls will come over and then they get this idea to sunbathe on the roof. And it wasn't like exactly like I might have imagined like they're kind of like getting naked and like pole dancing. I'm not sure because I haven't really like went into details, but they were just actually taking their t-shirts off and kind of like sunbathing over there. And I was just sitting and bathing. I was like, okay, this also works. And so, um, but I found out this thing that where I want other people to be involved or somebody to come, then that timeline or this universe needs to find somebody who's also is going to have that idea come to them, and from their own free will they want to do that, they feel inspired to do that. So if it's like a friend coming over or somebody coming over and sunbathing or whatever, taking their t-shirt off, or um, like somebody giving me some money or something like this, it has to be that potential that's collapsed between in a multiplayer arena. There's like more players, everybody have free will, so everybody needs to then feel inspired to do that. But then I left out actually other people. So I was like, but wait, if I'm just sitting here and nobody needs to come and like, I don't know, like put money here in a linear fashion, like the money can just show up. And so I would then imagine a timeline where just money shows up, and then the money was there on the coffee table and no, there was no interaction with people. So manifesting, it's way easier than co-manifesting or co-creating, right? So then for like 8 years I wasn't actually even able to do something so complicated to like get somebody else to uh, make an appointment with me and then like come over, and then we negotiate if we're gonna go play some football, because everybody's so like each individual, they have so many options that it's really hard to kind of like collab something together. Well, it's not if you have friends and you're defaulted into same reality presets and kind of like teams, and then you have things in common. Okay. But let's say I wanted to teach this stuff and then I couldn't find anyone. And then I wanted to teach this stuff and get paid, and I couldn't find anyone who's going to actually even learn this stuff, and let alone also like they're also feeling inspired to, or that would be like, that would happen, that would manifest, but that would be so freaking complicated to arrange, and it would take so much time before somebody shows up and effectively is down to listen to my YouTube video, and then is also down to like get together and do some training. So that became then obvious to me that I have to have conversations and build relationships with people around the same themes, so we start to vibe around same possibilities, and then we can do like more intimate arrangements that we're going to go and do some stuff together, like we're going to go on a trip together, or we're going to go. So now I have also clients where we have a common theme, common area of understanding, and for example, they want to manifest something, and then I'm kind of training their consciousness how to interface with reality, and then the things they want, they are aligned for them. And it's very interesting because, for example, the people and their individuality and their desires and troubleshooting is very different from person to person. So, for example, I am it's complex. So I had a friend, they were selling some things, and we aligned them to go from like having no sales into sold out. For example, I had a friend, they were about to go to prison for some really silly stuff that wasn't even like something that cannot be forgiven and just overlooked. But the laws of the society were unforgiving, and then I had them see how they could just dissolve the timeline where that ever happens. Because you have to subscribe to a timeline, whether consciously or unconsciously. You have to be saying that you want to participate in that reality. If you're just zero pointing and everything disappears, there's no people to interact with you, there's no movie. So whether you're gonna do something, meet me for a coffee, or go for a prison sentence, you can forgive yourself, or you can dismantle that potential. This is your free will. So yeah, I said I'm gonna share some crazy stuff. When I came out of meditation after 2 years, it was obvious to me that I can invoke any type of timeline, and that it really does not matter what is the experience, because you are just manifesting an experience. It's only complicated if you want other people involved, but if you are having the experience solo, it's less complicated. You only need to default your beliefs and expectations and assumptions. But I found out that you can also understand that your assumptions are not in alignment with the desired reality. Then you can first manifest that your assumptions switch, because your assumptions, your beliefs, is the same like manifesting a parking spot. Your assumptions, your beliefs are pixels on the screen. So if you can manifest finding a parking spot, you can basically manifest anything. It's the same. But you're assuming that a parking spot is plausible, but you're not assuming that, I don't know, having a miracle healing is plausible, or coming into like large amount of money by meditating, basically. So because maybe you're, you know, used to parking your car, but you're not used to seeing miracle healing or large amount of money or something like this. So you're by default of your data set, you're kind of not expecting that. And then by default, you would say, nah, but I don't think so. And then you would anchor yourself in a timeline where you don't think so. And as you don't think so, the thing is relative, it's not manifested. But if you can manifest in the same way like manifesting a parking spot, that your self-concept, that your belief, that your assumption changes, then only by manifesting a different assumption, you're manifesting a different reality, whatever that may be. Big stuff. So remember where the collective had pandemic a few years ago? It was a shared reality subscription because everybody was talking about and participating. But I was holding my horses, I was holding my subscription. And when I was not interfacing with people, I was in a timeline of reality where there was no pandemic. So literally, I live in a village, and one day I go out and there's zero pandemic, there's zero mask, people with masks, there's zero, 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 any interference with this timeline. But then through friends who read Facebook and are on media, and then they get programmed by this information. And then if I talk to my friends, every day everybody talk about same thing. What about the lockdown? What about now the pandemic? What about the virus? What about do we get vaccine? What about not getting vaccine? What about this? What about? As soon as I talk to somebody, I go in the same street, everybody wearing masks. Then I go meditation, I delete these stories from my mind. When I go out in the street, I don't remember it and there's nothing about it. But then I start to cross interfere my timeline with timelines where there is people who are cross interfering with the collective timeline. So everybody talking to everybody, right? It creates this effect that information is being shared, and by receiving any information, you're creating a mental image and now you're anchoring yourself into that timeline. So we're collectively anchoring each other into this timeline, but I feel like this timeline is like BS, to be honest. So this one time I come to a restaurant and I'm having my coffee. It's 8 in the evening, and a, a guy comes that work in the restaurant and say, guys, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. We're closing 8 because now it's a lockdown because there is a pandemic. Everybody starts to get up from the table, in my experience, and get ready to leave. But I'm there. I'm like, no, like I want to keep talking. I want to keep like sitting here, socializing, right? So I'm saying, yo, switch the timeline, like this. The timeline switches. There's another waitress coming. Now all of these guys, they're standing up because they already stood up and they're talking about something. Now another guy arrives and he sits down and everybody sits. And I'm like, okay, so are we leaving now or what's happening? Not sure. But now the waitress comes. She's like, do you guys want something to eat? I'm asking curiously. Because now I don't know what timeline I'm in. But it seems like she's asking us to order food. So I say, uh, how long are you open? She's like, normal, midnight. I'm like, oh, cool. Let me have some food. Now I'm looking the waiter that came before and gave this information about we need to leave. They're not in the restaurant. They're like, we know all the staff, and they're not. It's like it looks like they're not working in that timeline. So now this waitress is appearing. So I get food, I get my chat, we play some chess or something, and then finish. I go outside. Now every day I'm coming to the same restaurant, and some days I'm seeing in the village people with masks because I'm talking to somebody who tell me what about pandemic, what about pandemic, and then during the rest of the day I see everywhere people with masks. When I go home, I meditate. I get out of that meditation. I go out. There's normal village. Everybody happy. Everybody smiling. Everybody walking in the street. No lockdown. No stuff. Right. But sometimes I go with my friends to a bar, and all of my friends they're subscribing to this pandemic, and then the police come and they tell us it's a lockdown. We have to go out. They're closing bars now. So I'm like, okay, my personal subscription is like I cannot collapse that I'm with people if everybody else is collapsing this. They kind of like overpower my subscription. So as long as I stay with people, I'm in their timeline. I'm trying to get people to come into my timeline, but they don't understand what I'm saying at the time. So weeks go on, and but every day this restaurant where I said I want to like stay here and I wanted this timeline. This restaurant I was coming every day to, and it's like a favorite hangout spot. So I just do it like every day. And 3 weeks later, my friend is in that street in front of that restaurant. I'm bumping into a friend. Now, this friend, I could argue, they're like a very powerful manifestor. Like they're super spiritual, probably into meditation, probably into all this stuff. Like they're really on a high frequency. And they really, really, really like understand this stuff. Apparently to a degree. Like they wouldn't be surprised by like if you talk to them about, you know, universe or manifestation, whatever. But they tell me, hey, what have you been doing all these weeks during the lockdown, especially with our favorite restaurant across the street being closed all this time? I'm like, yo, bro, I've been here every day in the restaurant. I'm like, no, it was closed, he says. Because I've been here in the street and they had locks on the door and chains and a notice saying closed because lockdown. So I'm like, okay, bro, we were not in the same timeline. But also, I'm asking them, do you remember when we had this chat before and you told me how you are aware that you are source, like creator of this reality, or like creator of, which is our, the I am nature of all of us individuals here, is that we are also the supreme divine, whatever source, God, whatever you want to call that. It's not really God, it's source. And he knows this. He's informed, he's awakened to he remembers this. And he's like, yeah, I am that. I'm like, okay, well, sucks for you. Sucks for you that you've been in this timeline where you can't even go to a restaurant. You're freaking God. What is informing your reality? What is informing your choices? You see, so back to my friend, they were about to go to prison. They're in this human reality. They're not remembering how everything works, and that they are the player in the video game that is also the creator, that have a free will and sovereignty and choice. So I'm nudging them into a perspective where they can remember that, so they can kind of like collapse the timeline where they actually have to go to prison or some like stupid stuff like smoking weed or whatever, right? Kind of helping everybody in this multiplayer arena to have a better gaming experience. Okay, because this is what we're doing. We're gaming. Okay, so after my like 7 8 years ago, after 2 years of meditation, I emerge. I go to play, and this is how stuff goes. Now I'm like weirdo in a collective timeline where everybody's wearing masks, and I'm like, okay, this is actually your God self telling you to wake up from the reality immersion, reality illusion, and start making your own choices and not listening to your media programming and like governments, and just create reality on a default without any creative authority. Okay, because this is not what you're meant to be, like a slave in your own dream. You're supposed to be awake within your own dream, and this is literally an the pandemic is literally uh, your higher self is teasing you into like literally making you a fool, so you can realize that, so you can self-realize. But then me coming from meditation, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have some friends, like I can manifest whatever in my singular timeline, but that's not fun. And this is how I ended up in this complexity of having relationships and co-creation and collapsing or co-creating convergence of how the potentials are gonna collapse between all of us, because the society defaults many things that are still very limited. And I just came from meditation and I'm like switching the remote control and like switching up timelines. So already under the impression that everything is really easy and everything is just an experience. So first friend I had, I wanted to show them this, and we were talking about manifestation. I was like, let me teach you. It's so cool. It's so easy. So I took my notebook. At the time, I didn't roll with the phone. I didn't roll with anything like that's programming my mind from external triggers. So I would create reality from my internal projector. So I was kind of old school. I just have a notebook and a pencil. I'm like a baby wizard, just with a notebook and a pencil, doing my stuff. Not and then distraction is like all of this other stuff. So I don't have a phone. I don't have like a bank account. I don't have money. I don't have stuff. I just go to restaurant and I'm like, no money on me, nothing. I just write. I just look at the menu and I write, I would like to have this burger, and then wait a little bit, and then somebody comes. It's like, hey, we ordered this, but we have to go. Would you like this burger? I'm like, thank you. Or somebody comes, like waiters comes and kind of like, hey, we have a. So I'm defaulting that you can just kind of be uh, surfing the timeline, and this timeline remote control is your only tool. You, the I am, because you are the remote control, you are the projector. There's no actual remote in my hand, it's just like in your mind. And practicing that this is my only tool. And then I can get things, but sometimes I need to manifest a timeline that creates a weird synchronicity for something to happen. Otherwise, I can't go like normal channels. I don't have money to buy stuff or rent a house. So it has to manifest. And still, it manifests, and even beyond my expectation. Like I'm living in this beautiful villa with the swimming pool, and it somehow manifested, and I wasn't even trying that hard, but it just comes, and you're enjoying really, like, going around. There's no other tools that you need other than yourself. And okay, and since then I was like, okay, let's integrate this stuff back into my life, that I can have phone and money and whatever, like use internet and talk to people and play video games and just go in a shopping mall and buy stuff that I want in a normal way, because it's still easier, because it's defaulted for everybody else. So when you're in a shared reality, in a collective consensus, it's easier to manifest when you're also working with the tools. But I just went into this extreme where I'm like, no other tools than self, just to see what's possible. And then everything was possible, as I said, unless you need to involve other people, because that's going to be complicated if they're not actually in that idea, like whatever you are thinking. So other people is then better to talk to and negotiate. Like, hey, you want to go grab something? You want Thai food? You want, like, you want Mexican? What you want? And then find collabs through making these deals mutually beneficial, like we both agree, or everybody agrees. So yeah, but when I came out of meditation, then I was showing my friend, my first friend that I got. I was very, very excited to have a friend after a long time, and so I was like, so you see, this is what we do. We write down, and so I was like, okay, so let's solve, for example, money, because I don't even know how to earn money. But look, you can find, and I'm looking on the phones, what is the biggest lottery in the world, whatever, and it goes like 100 million something, 120 million. So I write my programming, so can focus in my mind what is the timeline that is going to happen. And I write that this lottery ticket for winning 123 24 millions is going to fall from the sky into my lap. And then two things happen. This happened the next day. The actual lottery ticket fell into my lap. And exactly, I said the wind is gonna blow it into my lap. This was not fall from the sky. I said the wind is gonna blow it, and then it's gonna, like, fall straight into my lap. Something like this. Was my sentencing, or sourcing, or programming, or whatever description. So this happens in exactly this way. But it's kind of weird. My friend was found a notebook in our villa garden, and then started to kind of like wave it around, and then some paper fell from that, and then the wind kind of like blew it here and there, and then it fell directly into my lap, and I picked up and, like, look, it's Euro Millions. And then they didn't really see, and I was saying, yeah, so look, it's this paper where, remember how I show you what we wrote down in the book, and then it's this. And it's crazy because we're in Bali, okay, which is in Asia, and this is a European lottery that kind of like fell from this notebook that was randomly in our garden. So I'm like, so this is like, this is what I was telling you. But they're like talking about something else, and they don't see, and I'm going like literally like this, hey, look. And they're not reacting to this paper. So that weirds me out. I'm like, okay, they're not seeing this. So later I meditate, and the answers come to me that they are not in this convergence, so it's not possible for them to see this thing yet. For whatever reason, their programming is not congruent with this timeline. I was like, okay, so now I can either have this money, which, like, whatever money I invoke, I can have anyway, or I can have a friend. So I'm just gonna, like, whatever, put this in my notebook, and then, now I have like millions of notebooks. So I guess I left that one somewhere. So I didn't go to check the ticket, or I didn't go to Europe. And here's the thing. Now, if you imagined in your mind and selected a timeline where this ticket actually won, and we find that ticket, we would need to select, and that would be the one. If you say, but it probably wasn't even the winning ticket, it was just a random ticket, then you would go into that timeline. It's that simple. And I never use that one because every day you start from scratch, or every single now moment, you start from 0 point. You start from whatever is the next event that you want. You imagine that one, so you don't need to rely on the stuff that happened before. But it's convenient to kind of like have your shoes and have your phone that you had yesterday, because this is why physical reality exists, is a dream information that becomes crystallized, so we can reference it more easily. It's like museum of dreams, the physical reality. So keeping some stuff is okay. But for me, because I was just training to do everything from without stuff, then I wasn't really relying on stuff. So next time I needed money, I would go into meditation and I would imagine just money in whatever. And I didn't imagine 100,000 millions, whatever was that, 100 millions. I would imagine like few hundred, and that will show up. Or I would imagine, like, specifically doing some trade with somebody who is willing to do the trade, like, like manifesting ideal customer or whatever, and then having this energy exchange or work exchange, and then that. But it was usually more efficient to just imagine money, and then money comes like one way or the other. And if you want it to come in a specific way, you can also describe that. If you want it to come in whatever way, you can do that. Okay, so, oh yeah, one more thing. More than one time, I would see the physical configuration of reality actually shifting in front of my eyes. So even people or whole environments, like shape-shifting the appearance to a degree. And then the physical or like human faces would like have like a pixels reloading. And then they would, for example, so there was like a woman in a restaurant, the same restaurant. There I go all the time, and they were saying like there's something wrong. They're like choking, and they had some kind of issue, like and they said they want to go look for some kind of healer or something like to do. Because I was sitting next to the table, I said, okay, can I have a look? But they were really in a bad state at the moment. So as I looked from pure consciousness, 0 point consciousness, it's obvious to that consciousness looking from that perspective that everything in this reality is pixels. Information arranged in a certain way. So as I witnessed their condition of pixels, I just had one thought. It's like, this is not real for you. It's just an information that's arranged. So on a subtle level, communicated that with the same consciousness that's experiencing them is the same consciousness. At which point, this thing just like like shape shifted, and they were like, huh? Like, huh? Their reaction was like, huh? What? Like, what did you do? Huh? Like, let me have a glass of water. Or like, what did you do? I'm like, nah, I didn't do anything, because that's literally what I did. I just witnessed from the empty consciousness that this reality is a informational construct that does not have to stay in that continuity that they were experiencing and identifying with. Okay, so immediately they're okay, and so these kind of things happen on often, that like a whole thing shifts, like the restaurant timeline when I switch and there's they saying we have to get out and then we can stay in the restaurant and we're being served food and everything's okay. So I will also be able to just, they were like pouring rain and I could just like turn it off. Okay, so what I'm saying here is, guys, I so like probably like your first feeling that I'm like being really authentic, and I'm trying also to not appear as like some kind of um like super cool wizard. I'm a baby wizard and I'm a daddy wizard and everything, but I'm trying to default this for you. This like this is the same. We're all same conscious. This is like the same for all of us. And I'll just give you an example. Like I made a friend who lives here in a more normal lifestyle, normal default lifestyle. When they use their mind to organize their reality, they're powerful. Like they reorganize their timeline, so like their kids would not be creating a fuss in the morning, everybody going to be ready to go to school, and they're able to shift events in their reality and also like manifest things inside of their business. But they're talking to me about this. So just one of my neighbors here, where I'm living in Europe now, where it's like more of just more grounded reality into like everyday stuff, and feedback loops become defaulted that things work like this. So they're just not thinking that they can use their mind to like heal something, like an ailment, like energy healing. Okay, which, but it's just not occurring to them. Their consciousness is using this manifestation, or your consciousness might be using this manifestation, same manifestation, for parking spots. But then you think like $1 million or like healing cancer is like, ooh, something like more difficult, where in fact it is actually the same. And now on my channel I talk about the how on a default the simulator of reality is going to create continuity, so you can have actually a linear physical experience. It creates a continuity of data. So if you're not assuming something new is effortless and possible, then it may be hard just by your conditioned data set, because hey, you remember that you have to do it like this, and then you get here, where in fact you could just do it like this, but it's programmed. So we're all under some limitation from the collective conditioning, but that also help us to be a collective and have these convergences. So we say like children are magical, and as we grow up this magic is kind of subdued. Yeah, because the more sequences of expectation we have by our programming, the more conditioned we are, but also we are then more able to do things that are around navigating physical realities and these pathways. Horizontal physical reality, you have to walk around the walls, right? And then you remember where the streets are in your city or your village, and then you know the way from A to B, but then you have to stop on the red light so the other cars can pass, and then you go, right? So you're not teleporting. And then it's a useful way to you. And if you don't think about teleporting, you won't be teleporting. Okay? But you're manifesting every day that your bike is in front of the house or the car is in the garage. But you're just never assuming that if you imagine the car not being in the garage, or having like even to a degree that you have a white car in your garage and you could come tomorrow and the car is pink, and the because it's pixels. And then if you allow that to be your default expectation or assumption, then actually it can happen also really effortlessly. So let me know what you think about this stuff. Yeah, drop a comment if you actually are vibing with this information. Subscribe to my channel if you're new. And yeah, I'll see you on the flip side. I'm just going to do a little bit of weird, like staring in the consciousness behind your eyes. Like,